Alright, listen up. You're waiting for some big Hollywood-style collapse in 2026. Dude, we're already living in it. And if you can't feel it, it's just because they've conditioned you to ignore the giant flashing warning signs. 62% of the country is one bad burrito away from being broke. Over 80 million people have literally $0 saved for an emergency, and get this, 1 in 3 families is playing skip dinner so they can keep the Wi-Fi on. Meanwhile, Jeff Bezos and his buddies are buying doomsday bunkers in New Zealand. China's dumping our IOUs like a bad habit, and the big banks have bought more gold in the last year and a half than at any point since 1950. You think that's a coincidence? It's because the people with all the cheat codes know what's coming, and they know you're still stuck on the tutorial level. None of this is some wild guess. It's already happening, just on mute. It's all happening behind the scenes, and by the time it makes the evening news, you'll already be screwed. This is the countdown the government's not going to tweet about, and the media won't cover. And the guy who manages your $400 in stocks is too terrified to explain it. This is exactly why 2026 is going to be a massive shock to the system for millions of people. The whole middle class thing isn't just a talking point, it's a ticking time bomb. You've probably heard it a million times, right? The middle class is shrinking. Blah, blah, blah. But what nobody's telling you is that 2026 could be the year it doesn't just shrink, it completely flatlines. Like, gone. In huge parts of the country. And no, this isn't me being dramatic. It's coming from some seriously ugly math that should make anyone who thinks they're comfortable feel a little sick. Some research group found that the middle class went from 61% of the country back in 1971 to barely 50% now. That's millions of families who didn't level up. They got knocked back to square one. And now, that middle class is basically running on credit card fumes, living on borrowed time and literally borrowed money. The total credit card debt in this country just topped $1.13 trillion, which is a new high score nobody wanted. The New York Fed says over 25% of us are now swiping a credit card just to buy freaking groceries. So in 2026, with interest rates still in the stratosphere and food prices climbing, higher than the official numbers admit, those Visa balances are going to turn into financial landmines. All it takes is one surprise: your car gives up, you have to go to the emergency room. Your dog eats a sock, and boom, you're in a death spiral. The average interest on that debt is now over 21%. That's like getting taxed by the government and then getting taxed again by the bank for the pleasure of being broke. And what makes it even funnier, in a horrifying way, is that this whole illusion of being well off, the leased cars, the mortgaged houses, the daily Amazon packages, is just hiding the fact that our money is basically becoming worthless. When you adjust for inflation, nobody's gotten a real raise in 50 years. So when people say, "I'm middle class," what they're actually saying is, "I'm one missed paycheck away from living in my Honda Civic." And by the way, the big corporations know it. It's why they're pouring money into A. To replace jobs, not to help you keep yours. 2026 isn't just a storm, man. It's the year the roof gets ripped clean off the American dream, and everyone inside finally realizes there was never a floor to begin with. You don't get a do-over. When a whole class system goes down, that's it. And believe me, that's what we're watching. While you're distracted, foreign investors are quietly buying up America's future, and you're definitely not invited to the party. Here's a thought nobody talks about. Why are investors from China, Saudi Arabia, and Europe suddenly buying up American land, houses, and farms at a crazy pace right now? Because they know something you don't. They know that while we're all busy drowning in student loans and living paycheck to paycheck, the actual assets of this country, its water, its food, its land, are being sold off like a going out of business sale. Last year alone, foreign money bought over $53 billion worth of our real estate, and that's on pace to set another record in 2026. Canada, China, Mexico, Germany, Singapore. These countries aren't just diversifying, they're planting flags in our backyard while we're all busy arguing about gas prices. Want some real nightmare fuel? Over 40% of the houses sold in places like Miami, Houston, and Vegas in 2024 were bought with cold, hard cash by foreign buyers while you were sweating over your credit score just to get a mortgage application looked at. Some guy in Dubai just wired a few $1,000,000 and bought the house you were dreaming about. Why? Because they see what's coming: a shaky dollar and rising interest rates. They see water shortages, crop failures, and they want to get their money out of their own broken systems and park it in ours. See, to them, America isn't a country. It's a safe deposit box. But you have to live here. And that means when housing prices go insane because some foreign billionaire bought 6 condos in your town, you're the one who gets priced out. You're the one who has to take on even more debt just to compete. And here's where it gets really shady. In 2026, expect some new laws that give more tax breaks for foreign investment, which is just code for, let's let rich people from other countries buy the land your kids were supposed to inherit. If you think that sounds like some crazy theory, go look up who the biggest owner of private farmland in America is. It's Bill Gates. Why does a tech billionaire give a damn about dirt? Because in a broken system, whoever owns the food and the water calls the shots. And right now, foreign money is buying both while we're all busy ordering DoorDash. Wake up. By the time people realize what's happening, they won't even own their own neighborhood anymore. There's a real estate time bomb that no one is ready for. There's this lie, the housing. The market has been whispering in our ears for decades. Home prices always go up. But here's what the banks and the talking heads on TV won't tell you. 2026 is shaping up to be the year the commercial real estate market finally shatters, and when it does, it's going to send shockwaves into every home, every suburb, and every retirement fund in the country. Here's why. Since 2020, over $1.5 trillion in commercial property debt was taken out with ridiculously low interest rates, but in 2026, more than $500 billion of that debt comes due, and it all has to be refinanced at rates that are double or even triple what they were. Do the math. A 3% loan that's now a 7% loan isn't a bump, it's a cliff. Office buildings in big cities are already 30% empty, thanks to everyone working from home permanently. Malls are ghost towns, and strip malls are half vacant. But the banks are still pretending those buildings are worth what they were 5 years ago. They haven't admitted how much money they've lost yet. Why? Because if they did, it would kick off a banking crisis that would make 2008 look like a walk in the park. And here's the real kicker. Your pension fund, your mutual funds, your retirement savings, they're all tangled up in these commercial real estate investments. That's right. When those assets go down the toilet, so does your future. But wait, it gets worse. Homeowners are walking straight into a buzzsaw, too. As more of these big commercial properties fail, banks are going to slam the brakes on all lending. That means even if you have great credit, a good job, and a down payment, getting a mortgage will be nearly impossible. Demand for houses will dry up, but the prices won't really fall. Why? Because massive investment firms think BlackRock will swoop in with cash and buy entire neighborhoods for pennies on the dollar, just like they did in Phoenix and Atlanta. In 2026, owning a home won't just be difficult, it'll be a rigged game. And the only people who will win are the ones who already have all the cash and connections. Everyone else? Get ready for insane rent hikes and a housing market that looks a lot like the 2008 crash. Only this time, there's not going to be a bailout. Your dollar is being put down in broad daylight, and it is not an accident. We have to stop pretending the dollar is strong, because what's really happening is that the U.S. dollar is being systematically put to sleep. Not with a big crash, but through a quiet, totally intentional engineered decline. And the crazy part is, they're doing it to buy themselves time, to make our massive national debt disappear with inflation, and to keep us all distracted, long enough for the real players to move their pieces around the board. Let's talk numbers. In 2001, what $1 could buy you now costs $1.85. That's an 85% drop in your money's power in just 2 decades. But what's really changed recently is that the rest of the world is losing trust in the U.S. dollar. Why? Because we started using it as a weapon. All right, so you know how we spent the last few years poking all the big bears? Like, we put Russia in a global timeout, gave China the stink eye, and just straight up froze people's bank accounts? Well, surprise. Surprise all those countries. You know, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and a whole bunch of their new friends are making their own little economic club with their own money. And this isn't some conspiracy theory from the weird side of the internet anymore. This group now controls over 30% of the entire planet's economy, and they're basically shouting from the rooftops that they want to cancel their subscription to the US dollar. Let me break it down for you. America is losing its monopoly on money, which is basically a death sentence for a country that lives on credit. Here's the grimy little secret. The only reason we can print endless amounts of cash is because every other country has been forced to use it. The second they stop and buddy, it is happening as we speak. Our ridiculous inflation becomes permanent. Your savings account becomes worthless. My paycheck, which already barely covers rent, and my mountain of student debt gets eaten alive. And what's our government doing about it? Oh, just quietly pushing this new solution called central bank digital currencies. Except it's not a solution, it's a leash. Imagine if the IRS, the Federal Reserve, and your bank all had a baby and it was a single, terrifying app on your phone. By 2026, the Fed won't just be fiddling with interest rates. They'll get to control how, where, and when you spend every single dime. And that's not me being dramatic. They're already beta testing it in New York under some corny spy movie name, Project Cedar. Europe is doing the exact same thing with their digital euro. Once this is the law of the land, it's game over for cash, game over for doing anything in private. And the dollar? Oh, it'll still be around, but it won't really be times yours asterisk. It'll be theirs, they can program it, track it, and 100% turn it off the second they decide you're not a useful little cog in the machine anymore. Speaking of being useful, this whole AI revolution is coming for our jobs way faster than anybody wants to admit. Everyone's acting like AI is this shiny new toy you use to cheat on your resume or make funny pictures of your dog. What they're not talking about is how it's already started to absolutely gut the job market, and it's set to go nuclear in 2026. You think I'm exaggerating? Fine. Let's look at the facts. Back in 2024, Goldman Sachs, the guys who basically run the world, estimated AI could straight up replace 300 million jobs. That's not some abstract number. That's 300 million paychecks that just vanish. And they weren't talking about factory workers. They were talking about people with college degrees and office jobs. People like me, accountants, analysts, customer service reps, HR people, marketing teams, all getting swallowed by algorithms that work 24/7, never get sick, and sure as hell never ask for a raise. Let that sink in for a minute. The very people who thought they were safe because they went to college are about to become as useful as a paperclip in a Microsoft Word document. You're already seeing the quiet layoffs. The company calls it restructuring or increasing efficiency. What it really is you being automated into irrelevance. By 2026, this won't be a weird trend. It'll just be business as usual. I mean, look at Wendy's. They're already testing AI at the drive-thru that not only takes your order but uses creepy robot psychology to upsell you on a Frosty. Bank of America is using AI to do the job of financial advisors. Amazon has you paying with the palm of your hand so they can fire the checkout clerks. And if your brilliant plan is, well, I'll just learn to code, you are already so far behind it's not even funny. ChatGPT-6 and whatever comes next are already writing code better than most entry-level developers. The question isn't if times AI will take jobs anymore. The question is, what the hell are we going to do with 50 million Americans who are no longer needed by the economy? What happens when companies are more productive than ever but nobody's wages are going up? Spoiler alert, you get riots, you get chaos, and you get a country where the economic engine is just running on its own with nobody in the driver's seat. If you're not figuring out how to own the robots through investments or starting a business or something, then you're just going to be the product they're selling. In 2026, AI is going to create the biggest divide between the rich and the rest of us we have ever seen. And most people won't even realize what hit them until it's way too late. Now, let's talk about food, because the prices are about to absolutely explode. This is the part that should really scare you. In 2026, America is walking straight into a crisis where people just can't afford to eat. There'll be plenty of food on the shelves. You just won't have the money to buy it. I mean, if you've been to the grocery store, you know it's already happening. Bread that was $1.99 is now $4.29. A bag of freaking apples is $8. And milk is getting cozy with $6 a gallon. But here's the part nobody knows. The prices you're paying right now are actually being propped up by the government. The USDA is already secretly bailing out farmers and shipping emergency supplies to food banks because, behind the scenes, our entire agriculture system is in total collapse mode. Over a third of all our farmland is running out of water, mainly because this giant underground water source that irrigates over 20% of our grain is just disappearing. It is drying up so fast, and there is no plan B. At the same time, all the crazy weather from climate change is killing the crops. Last year, in 2025, our grain harvest dropped by 14% across the country, and they're predicting another huge drop for 2026. It's not complicated. Less food gets grown, prices go way up. And that's just one part of the problem. Now we have to actually get the food to the store. America's ancient railroads and trucking industry are buckling. Fuel is insane, and workers are striking. The Teamsters are already threatening a nationwide strike next year that would freeze up 70% of all food deliveries. And the cherry on top, giant corporations are quietly buying up all the small, independent farms, creating a monopoly on food. So it's impossible for the little guy to even survive. That means when things get really bad, you're not buying from your neighbor. You're buying from a corporate giant that will charge you literally whatever it wants. By the fall of 2026, the average American family is projected to spend over 20% of their paycheck on groceries, the highest it's been since World War II. For families with less money, it'll be almost 40%. That's not just inflation, man. That's economic starvation. You're not going to see bread lines in 2026. You're just going to see everyone's DoorDash app sitting unused because they can't afford the delivery fee anymore. And when people in this country can't afford to eat, trust me, things fall apart real fast. Historically, skyrocketing food prices are the first domino to fall before a society completely unravels. In 2026, that domino is already tipping over. And get this, the banking system is getting ready to lock you out of your own money. I'm not being a conspiracy nut, you just have to pay attention to see something is seriously wrong. In fact, if you tried to take out more than $5,000 in cash lately, I'm willing to bet you got a bunch of questions, had to wait, or maybe they just flat out told you no. That's not bad customer service, dude. That's control. Because as we head into 2026, the banks are all quietly changing the rules. They're not in the business of access anymore. They're in the business of restriction. They're not just holding your money, they're building walls around it. And here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. They're not doing it because they're in trouble. They're doing it because the government told them to. There was this emergency fund started in 2023 to prop up failing banks. Well, over $160 billion has been secretly funneled to banks that were about to collapse, banks you never even heard of. And now, those exact same banks are sitting on hundreds of billions of dollars in bad investments that they can't sell without taking a huge loss. That means if only 3 to 5% of Americans decided to pull their money out on the same day, the whole system would shatter. So instead of fixing the problem, they're just trying to stop you from getting your money out. That's why you're seeing ATMs, with face scanners, banks closing in small towns, and everyone pushing you into a digital-only account. This isn't them being modern. This is them building a cage. By early 2026, you should expect to need biometric proof like a fingerprint or face scan for any purchase over $1,000. JP Morgan and Wells Fargo are already testing it. And don't even think about buying gold or silver as a safe bet. A bunch of banks have already started flagging purchases of precious metals as suspicious activity under new anti-money laundering rules. In other words, if you try to take your own money out of your own account to buy something they don't like, they red flag you. You think I'm making this up? Go look up the government's new rules for tracking money. They're already using it as an excuse to monitor people who buy things they consider non-compliant assets. Let me put it as plainly as I can. In 2026, your money isn't your money. It's a permission slip. And the moment you step out of line, that permission gets revoked. Nah, you don't get a warning letter, man. You just get your card declined trying to buy a burrito and an awkward silence. Welcome to America, now with 2 totally different subscription plans. You might not see it from your rental's front door, but for real, every big city is splitting in 2. It's not just the rich side of town and the poor side anymore. It's like 2 separate dimensions are occupying the same space. And by 2026, this little crack is going to become a full-on chasm, permanent and ugly. Think I'm just being dramatic? Go take a weekend trip to San Francisco or Chicago. You'll see. There are whole neighborhoods that are basically unofficial. You are on your own zones now. The cops are so understaffed they might as well be a book club. Stores are plywood chic, and the number of people on the streets is just, wow. In L.A., we're talking over 75,000 people. But then you go, like, 2 miles away, and they're putting up these insane luxury towers. $5,000 a month for a studio the size of a walk-in closet, with guys with guns at the front door and elevators that need your fingerprint. That's not inequality, dude. That's a cold war between neighbors. So get this. Violent crime in the regular people zones is up 39% since 2022. But other stuff is down. Why? Because people aren't boosting TVs from Walgreens. They're grabbing baby formula and bread. But in the fancy zones, crime is basically a myth. Why? Because they've seceded. They've got their own cops, cameras everywhere, and roads that only residents can use. It's like a bunch of little private countries. And the cities are totally cool with it. By 2026, that's going to be the blueprint. Little gated utopias inside a rotting city. Think Hunger Games, but instead of Panem, it's Houston or Detroit. And if you think I'm making this up, go look at the zoning laws they're trying to pass in Phoenix. They're literally letting rich people set up their own private robot security grids for their block. I'm talking drones. AI, cameras, license plate trackers all paid for by the Homeowners Association, and the city just looks the other way. What you're watching is the end of the whole we're in this together idea. There's no us anymore. There's just the people who can afford to escape the mess and, well, us. And the next time the economy has a little hiccup, our parts of the city are going down first. Because the bridges are already crumbling, the city services are a joke, and everyone with money already bounced. The cash is gone, the jobs are gone. All that's left is people getting desperate, which means crime goes up and the value of your landlord's property tanks. Then insurance companies will just ghost the entire area, like they're already doing in parts of California. And if your place loses its insurance, have fun trying to sell a house nobody can get a mortgage for. That's the trap. You're stuck, and nobody with money wants to move in. 2026 is going to be the year millions of people look around and realize their city isn't really part of the US anymore. It's more like an economic quarantine zone, and nobody's coming to fix it because all the rich people who could have already built their escape pods, and the rest of us, we'll be stuck here holding the keys to a kingdom made of garbage. Oh, and the government is totally getting ready for mass riots, but they're being super quiet about it. If you feel like everything's a little off right now, you're not crazy. And you're definitely not the only one. But here's the kicker. The government knows exactly what's coming. They've seen the numbers, and they're getting ready. Not by, helping people, but by stocking up on riot shields and creepy surveillance tech. Let's look at the receipts. Homeland Security asked for over $1.6 billion in 2025 for civil disturbance stuff. That's almost a 200% jump from before 2020. Why? Because all their secret memos say the same thing. 2026 is the year it all hits the fan. Inflation, the housing market disaster, food shortages, and robots taking all the jobs are all going to crash into each other. They know it's coming, you can feel it in your bones, but nobody in charge wants to hit the brakes. Instead, they're building a cage. You've seen those new smart streetlights they're putting up in New York and L. They sell them as being all green and energy saving, but they forget to mention the built-in high-def microphones and facial recognition cameras. They are literally designed to listen for crowds getting bigger or louder. That's not me being a conspiracy nut. You can look up the patents. It's already happening. And when you ask why they need that, the answer is pretty simple. Because they know what happens when millions of people realize they can't even afford to survive anymore. It's the same reason the National Guard is basically setting up permanent camp near big cities now. It's why Amazon and Google have deals with the Pentagon to spy on all of us in real time. They're not gearing up for a war somewhere else anymore. They're building a system to predict who's going to cause trouble right here at home. And this thing, Project Maven, it's a Defense Department AI that's literally learning how to spot social media posts that could lead to riots. Translation? They already have a list of which neighborhoods are going to snap first, which cities are going to have a real bad summer, and who's probably organizing the potluck. Think about that. In 2026, the government won't be showing up late to a riot. They'll be showing up before it even starts, not with help, but with force. And the craziest part is, none of this is on the evening news. You're not supposed to ask why your tax dollars are buying tear gas instead of paying for rent relief. You're supposed to just work your dead-end job, pay up, and scroll through your phone. But when this whole thing finally breaks, and it will, don't wait for a rescue helicopter. Expect a lockdown. Expect the internet to get real weird and censored. And if you tweet the wrong thing, expect to get shadow banned into oblivion. The collapse isn't on its way. It's because you're soaking in it. There's no future collapse, because it's not some big event that's going to happen. It's happening right now. You are living through it. It's not one big crash. It's a slow, quiet, step-by-step demolition of the whole American dream thing. And the reason most people don't see it is because we all expected it to look like a disaster movie. We were waiting for explosions and chaos in the streets. But that's not how a country actually falls apart. It falls apart like this, slowly, quietly, while everyone just kind of goes along with it. I mean, think about it. When your groceries cost twice as much but your paycheck is the same, that's the collapse. When your rent is half your income and moving isn't an option, that's the collapse. When you have to put gas and food on a credit card and the interest payments are basically a second rent, that's the collapse. When the schools are garbage, the roads are a mess, the water is sketchy, and nobody in charge cares, yep, collapse. When a company can lay you off with an automated email but owns your data for life, that's the collapse. When a handful of billionaires made $7 trillion during a plague, while 60% of the country couldn't afford a $500 car repair. That's not capitalism, bro. That's feudalism with Wi-Fi. And we've all been trained to just say, well, that's just how it is. That's the twisted part. You're not scared of the collapse because it happens so gradually you just got used to it. But 2026, that's the year the whole illusion just shatters. The year you realize that ladder you've been climbing your whole life is leaning against a cloud. That the money you were saving was just getting eaten by inflation while you slept. That whole story they sold us, work hard, go to college, get a good job, buy a house, it was just a script to keep us busy and in debt while they took everything that wasn't nailed down. There's no hero coming to save us. There's no miracle. The system isn't broken. It's doing exactly what it was built to do. It just wasn't built for you and me. The real collapse was never about buildings falling down. It was about trust completely evaporating. And in 2026, that trust is officially gone, replaced by being pissed off, scared, and slowly realizing that you are 100% on your own. So the only question isn't if things are going to break, it's if you'll be ready when everyone else finally admits it's already broken. You've seen the signs. You've felt them. In your bank account, in the grocery store, in your gut. This isn't some far-off doomsday prediction. It's your Tuesday. The systems that were supposed to be the safety net, the banks, the government, your job. They've already picked the winners and losers. And if you don't have the right investments, the right skills, or the right connections, you're what's being left behind. They won't put out a press release about it. It won't be a breaking news alert. Because by the time it's on CNN, it'll be way too late for you to do anything but watch. All right, listen up. You basically have two ways to play this. Option 1, you can just bury your head in the sand and get steamrolled with everybody else. Or option 2, you can pull your head out of your phone, figure out what's coming, and start moving like your landlord's about to change the locks. Because trust me, if 2024 and 2025 were just the universe, firing a few warning shots, then 2026 is when it drops the actual bomb. You either gear up or you get wiped out. And spoiler alert, nobody's coming to rescue you.